Okay. Thank you everyone for being here. This is a great event Margot and everyone at Chicago Youth Talks has put together for us. We're going to hear some really intriguing speeches today, and as Margot said, we'll be talking to you about chess. And now before you all start yawning, I assure you through this presentation you'll come to see that chess isn't as boring as it may seem. It's a beautiful game. One mind against another. Two tacticians engaging in a mental battle full of complexities and surprises. It's a game that's far more than just a game of checks and captures. It's analogous to our daily lives in so many ways. And by playing the game of chess, you can come to learn a lot about yourself and others. And so before we get into some specifics and some concepts behind chess, we're going to go into the mechanics of the game. And so, as you see, we have a chessboard here. This is a pawn, a rook, a knight, a bishop, a king, and a queen. Now, pawns move one square forward at a time, but on the first move and the first move only, they can move two squares. Rooks move vertically and horizontally. Knights move in an L shape. That's 3 squares forward and 1 square to the left or right, or 3 squares to the side and 1 square up or down. Bishops move diagonally, and kings move vertically, horizontally, and diagonally, but only 1 square at a time. And then queens are a mixture of a bishop and a rook. They can move diagonally, vertically, and horizontally, as many pieces as possible. There's also a rating system in chess to kind of like determine the value of pieces and help determine which player has an advantage. So a pawn is worth 1 point, a rook is worth 5 points, a knight and bishops are both worth 3 points, and a queen, being the most mobile, is worth 9 points. And quickly to clarify, to put your opponent's king in check is when you attack your opponent with one of your pieces, like when the opponent's king is in the path of one of your pieces, that's check. And on the following move, your opponent has to either move his king, block the check, or capture the piece that's putting him in check. And to win a game of chess, you have to put your opponent in checkmate. And that's checking your opponent's king and making it so that your opponent's king has nowhere to go that doesn't also put him in check. So we're going to kind of demonstrate this checkmate concept here. So can anyone in the audience, does anyone want to volunteer and say what move is checkmate here for white? White to move. Yeah.
Queen to h7.
Queen what?
Queen to h7.
Perfect, yeah. So queen h7, mate. And as you can see, the opponent's king is in check and he has nowhere to move. So this is a very simple mate. We're going to look at a slightly more complex problem here. Now, as you can see, in the position of black has a knight, a bishop, a queen, and a rook, and 4 pawns. White has the same pieces minus a bishop. So as we mentioned earlier, bishop's worth 3 points. So black is up in a material. He has a clear advantage and should be winning off the point system. So white has a clear problem here. He has to find a solution, and he has to find it quickly before black can capitalize on this advantage. And so would anyone like to, well, first off, so white has to think, now that he's faced with this problem, he has to think in terms of what are called like forcing moves. And that's moves that force your opponent to move somewhere that you want them to move. And it really applies in this case. Does anyone want to volunteer and tell us what move works? Sure.
Knight to c7 check.
Perfect. So the king only has 1 square to move. That's b8. So from here we have to find another forcing move.
Knight to a6.
Perfect. And so now the king is put in what's called a double check. The king is put in what's called a double check. He's being checked by the queen and by the knight. So when there's a double check, the king is forced to move. And as you'll notice, he can't move to c8. Why?
Checkmate.
Perfect. Checkmate. Queen 7. So he has to go back to a8. And from here, white's going to do something very surprising.
Queen to b8 check.
Perfect. And at first you might think, well, what's happening here? Black's just going to take the queen, right? The queen's worth 9 points. Why would you give up your queen? And after rook takes, what do we have?
Knight to c7 checkmate.
And so this is a mating pattern called the smothered mate. And it kind of reveals a connection chess has to math. Often the solutions to math proofs and math theorems are very surprising. And as you saw here, like it's kind of beautiful. It's really elegant, and that's something you find often in math proofs. And that's a way that chess forces you to think. It constantly forces you to think outside of the box and look for these moves that go against traditional logic. So we're going to move on to a particularly intriguing game. So we mentioned before how chess is very analogous to our daily lives, and this game demonstrates that concept in many ways. before Andy goes into some tactical concepts behind the game, I'm going to contextualize where it comes from. So the year is 1956. Young Bobby Fischer, 13-year-old Bobby Fischer, is playing in the Rosenwald Memorial Chess Tournament in New York City. His opponent is 26-year-old Donald Byrne, one of the best American chess players at the time. In this game, against insurmountable odds, Fischer would go on to play what is widely regarded as the game of the century. So Andy will take it from here.
So I'm going to go more into the specifics of this game. This picture is actually a picture that was taken at the climax of the game, where Bobby Fischer had to make the most important move of the game. So this is the position, and even if you're a beginner in chess, as Samir said before, bishops move diagonally. So you might notice that black is already in the threat of being taken as queen by the white pieces. So here, Bobby Fischer has to make a decision. Either he protects his queen, or he plays something else, which will end up losing his queen. So what he did was actually really surprising. Instead of moving his queen or protecting it, he simply put his bishop back to e6, leaving his queen at the mercy of the white bishop. So even though this move might seem completely crazy, because he's sacrificing his most valuable piece, there was actually an insane amount of calculation that went behind it. Fischer looked beyond the superficial value of each piece and saw their potential in the position. So as the game carried out, 20 moves later, this is the position that he reached. He has the black pieces attacking the white king. And this is how it played out. So he used each piece individually as part of a team, each supporting one another and going towards the goal of checkmating the white king. And so on move 41, 20 moves after his sacrifice, he checkmated the white king. So this really goes to show how Fischer's sacrifice wasn't actually a sacrifice, it was simply an investment. He saw that the potential things he could gain from his sacrifice were better than what he was risking. And so, similarly in life, it is sometimes necessary to make sacrifices to reach a better position. But sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes you make sacrifices and you don't reach a better position. And that is where calculation comes in. You have to look forward into the future in order to be able to direct your pieces in a desired way and reach a more prosperous future. So Fischer was forced to think differently, and doing so at such a young age is simply astounding.
And in the same way that Fischer had to think ahead far into the game in order to make his decision, similar situations face us all the time. Many high school students have to think about what college you want to go to, and that's a situation that involves thinking not only 1 year into the future as to which college you want to go to, but maybe 20, 30, 40 years into the future, what you want to do in life, what career do you want to pursue. And in the same way that Bobby Fischer was faced with this high-risk, high-reward situation, it's also analogous to life in many ways. For example, with investments. All the time, people are faced with the situation, do I buy a low-risk, maybe bond, and expect low rewards, or do I take high risks and invest in stocks with high risk and high reward? And in this situation, Bobby Fischer took a very high risk and got a very high reward out of it.
Yeah, and so not only would Fischer beat Byrne in this match, but he would go on to dominate world chess during the Cold War era, a time when Russian chess grandmasters had claimed the title of world champion for their own. Fischer was the only American ever to so thoroughly dominate world chess. And he would do so with very few resources. Chess players today have the internet, have countless amounts of books. Fischer taught himself different languages so he could read foreign chess periodicals and really strive to be the best. And that's what chess teaches you. We might not all be, at Fischer's level, but you constantly strive to beat your opponent. And you strive to face whatever odds you're encountered with. In Fischer's case, he was facing someone rated hundreds and hundreds of points higher than he was, but he did it, and he went on to constantly be the best. And that's what chess teaches you to do in life.
Yeah, so all these analogies are really cool and all, but now we're going to get more into the statistics behind the educational value of chess. So here's the list of all the areas of education in which chess helps you. So first of all, chess helps you with focusing by having to observe carefully and concentrate. It helps you visualize by imagining a sequence of actions before it even happens. Chess helps you think ahead with the concept of thinking first and then acting upon those thoughts, and weighing options, as Lucas mentions, to find the pros and cons of a particular situation and finding what is better. So some other benefits are concrete analysis. Chess teaches you that logical decisions are, just like in life, often better than impulsive ones. It teaches you to think abstractly, to consider the bigger picture, as we saw in Fischer's game. And it teaches you planning, to determine long-range goals and to come about to deliver those goals. And finally, chess teaches you to juggle multiple considerations simultaneously, and that is having different combinations to consider all at once and finding which one is better. So these, of course, have been proven through a multitude of experiments. One of them was an experiment in Marina, California, where 55% of students who played chess showed academic improvement after only 20 days of instruction. There was another 5-year study of 7th and 8th graders where 17.3% of chess players improved in test scores, whereas only 4.5% of other students who participate in other enriching activities like problem solving on computers or creative writing. So this really goes to show the educational value of chess, and but it goes beyond that, because chess was proven to help special education students to socialize, even reducing incidents of suspension in school by at least 60%. So from all of these facts, we can come to see really the educational value of chess, and that brings a question of why isn't it receiving the attention it deserves here in the US? In other countries of the world, like France, for example, it's receiving national attention. It's taught in many schools, and the reason for this is that chess here in the US is extremely expensive, and so we're going to present our solution to that problem to find the next Bobby Fischer.
And so while our initiative, while we may not find the next Bobby Fischer, we seek to make at least some kind of positive impact in our community through the game of chess. And so we each have our own motivations for starting the Chess Institute of Chicago. I know that Andy has had extensive chess training in France, and he was fortunate enough to grow up in Europe, where chess education is so widely available and at a low cost. And so he plays extremely well, if I do say so myself. But that comes from a lot of training at a young age. I know Samir has had some training, especially during his summers in Bosnia, and learning chess where they have clubs and where instruction is so widely available. And but he has also not nearly to the extent of Andy, because growing up in the U.S. it is so expensive. And I know that I haven't had nearly as much as the other two, because growing up in Florida and growing up in Brazil, there is so little chess instruction, and what little there is comes at such a high cost that I've never been able to afford it. And so while I was extremely interested when I was younger, I was simply never able to pursue that. And so we all recognize the value of chess instruction, especially at such a young age. But the cost, and we also recognize how expensive it is. And so seeing that issue, we thought of ways to solve it, and that's when we came to the idea of the Chess Institute of Chicago initiative. And so the Chess Institute of Chicago is a nonprofit organization that seeks to promote the many benefits of chess through a unique, completely free of cost mentorship program in which we pair the top high school students, chess players in the city